We can't talk about the future of government unless we talk about bureaucracy, and unfortunately it's not something anyone really follows. So you get a few minutes to hear me talk about in a different way, a way that, from my professional perspective, is about enhancing what we get out of government. Okay? And I get to study firsthand how bureaucracy affects organizational performance. Even better, because I'm really a bureaucracy geek. I mean, I might be the only one in the room. I'm at the pinnacle of my bureaucracy geekness, but not only at the VA, but also in the largest government workforce in the world. I don't know if you realize that. And you heard me correctly. If you count military, civilian, government at all levels, there's 21 million govies. That's the largest reported government workforce in the world. 21 million. That is 1/7 of every employed person in the United States as a government worker. Now, if you count the govyites, as I call those of you who are funded through contracts and grants, that's 1/4. 1/4. 25% of the workforce is funded through a government bureaucracy. We don't give bureaucracy enough attention. If you had an investment today in your portfolio and you realized that driving it was something that required 25% of your investment, you want to know how it works. So, the federal government alone is spending $3.8 trillion last year. And to put that into perspective, the average employee in the United States puts 1/3 of their earnings into the government bureaucracy. That's 1/3 of your work life, 1/3 of what you would give to your family's well-being, 1/3 you would save for your old age. It's a big investment that you're all contributing to, and yet we don't really study bureaucracy. The value of what we do as govies is based on a very complex concept: trust. You are all trusting government with 1/3 of your effort, 1/3 of your earnings to create value. Okay? And that trust is based on this idea that somehow we are taking social solutions to deal with public problems. And ironically, we really never solve problems. We're in the business of you trusting us to sensibly, carefully apply resources to manage complex problems in society. Okay? But it's interesting that we never really get to that question of social solutions for public problems. This all goes back to one thing: leadership. I've been studying leadership for 25 years now, and I've come to a really simple concept. There's only two kinds of leaders. There are those that navigate structure, the bureaucracy, very well. And in that navigation they thrive, and they're able to sustain their leadership position, and they like what they do. But the interesting thing about that is that they're never really asked to change that structure. Then we have folks who are what I would call performance leaders. The first group I call navigation leaders. Performance leaders are those that have skin in the game. They have a commitment to rethink, redesign that structure that's affecting the outcome, affecting the capability of the organization. Side story here. These are my 3 sons. And the interesting thing about them is that they live their lives in these very small cycles. And being organizational architecture, I try to look at long cycles that affect capability. The funny thing about these guys is that these short cycles generally have to do with eating, getting food on their clothes, playing outside, getting dirt on their clothes, sneezing, you get the idea, right? And they start figuring out that they were the cause of these short cycles that were now a burden to them because I was making them fold their own laundry. Okay? And in folding their own laundry, they complain. There's too much. This is too hard. Why are we doing this? And I started thinking, yeah, this sounds like a lot of people I work with. We in government practically have to do the exact same thing. We need to know if we can have teams that can rethink and redesign these cycles so they're not small anymore. They're more longer analytic solution type cycles. In government, unfortunately, you have a lot of people, 21 million, who want to do something good, but these cycles sort of pull them back. The cycles are like short political cycles, short executive tenures, hurry up and stop acquisition cycles. You guys know what those are like. Or fads. right? There's always these big solutions or the buzz or whatever it is that people get excited about for a cycle. Everything should be in the cloud, and then tomorrow we got another list of 25 things to do. And so you see the off-sites, the heavy lifting, the quick fixes. You know, we've all been part of these things where, you know, we throw a lot at it and get something quick, we'll be better. Well, that doesn't quite make sense. That's like the guy that goes into the gym. Where's Eric? I was going to pick on him. Goes to the gym, puts a bunch of weight on the bar, gets underneath it, and with all their might, they push it up, put it back down, and they go, that was great. I've been here in 2 months, but I feel strong, and they leave. Well, they're not stronger. In fact, they might actually be weaker. They've done some damage. Well, that's what a lot of these short cycles do to the workforce. If you are focused on doing something fast all the time and not able to see the effects, right, you diminish the capability of your workforce. For me, the discipline I've been using the last 8 years is called Performance Architectural Science Systems. Some of you know about it. This company, SPARC, has been an advocate of that discipline, and they've applied it to some of their own work. And that's what comes out of my work at UNBC. Performance architecture is basically the science I apply to creating better government. The nature of PASS is this. It's a simple way to integrate science and technology, right, to influence individuals to become their own best performance analysts. And in turn, they become aware of the structure that's sort of affecting them, binding them, and they start working on that, just like my kids work on their own cycles, their own structure, right? And they build out ways to make that structure better. And then, as a result, they're transforming bureaucracy, and they're creating better government. So it's that integration and adaptation that makes PASS useful. Now, the basics of PASS is that every organization is on one of two paths, either to a heavy bureaucracy or a light enterprise. So you're on these two paths. Now, there's an issue with PASS in organizational development, and it's called fit. I'm an organizational architect. Fit is what I think is the key to everything. If you can't fit what you're doing to how people are changing, how organization is changing, or how the context is changing, then you start to get some disruptive pieces to that organization because you have poor fit. Right? One more of these slides and you'll all be asleep, right? So, fit, keep fit simple. There's three things as an organizational architect I have to think about: aligning messages, emergent thinking, and sustainable cycles. The simple of this is that whole thinking, the emergent thinking. I mean, I can align the messages, put together an advanced media program, get everybody to hear the same thing. Like I use a visualization to get those messages to sync together. But the best part of this is emergent thinking. It's the building blocks for PASS. Because if you break down structure of organization, you basically get into 5 key elements: workforce, workflow, policy, change, and communication. And I use that as the training basis of learning performance leadership in the organization, and you build on that, your analytic structure. But I've also tried to monitor how thinking is changing. And so I have seen some trends in the government, and these are very positive trends. I'm glad to see these. See changes in the way people manage risk by trying to diffuse the thinking, get people to think locally rather than mandate an outcome, or to stand up a major project and start looking for phased types of initiatives so there's continual learning and adaptation. Okay. And then those sustainable cycles. I mentioned the cycles before. It's getting into more of a long-term integration of science and technology to know what are we becoming, how are we all contributing to it. In PASS, the cycle's pretty simple. It's about defining and testing over and over again what we're becoming as an organization, and then using that to encourage that, develop that performance leadership, and then reinforce it in the structure. So, the future of government. The thing about better government, and this is why I'm here sharing with you some ideas, is that the future of government is based, in my opinion, on this thesis that we choose the path that we are on. Are we going to become a light enterprise or a heavy bureaucracy? And the reason you may care about that is that it's a third of your investment, and it's shaping the world that you live in. Okay? And I'm an optimist. Every time I see an organization working, I see every pen to paper, every hand on the whiteboard, every key on a keyboard as a potential spark of innovation. No pun intended, guys. But I also see it as a river of fiery enthusiasm that can affect that culture. And if you allow me, a volcano of transformative actions that are going to change how everyone works. There comes a time, and there is a time now, when all of us need to rethink and redesign those things that we've taken for granted, or those things that we assume will never change, like bureaucracy, government bureaucracy. It is time for us to rethink and redesign government bureaucracy. And while I'm an optimist, I feel like that 21 million gubbies are missing out on the opportunity. They're not given the permission or the encouragement to move out. And so I ask you to help me apply PASS to make better government. And it all starts with us, citizens, expecting the optimal value from that 1/3 of our work life, that 1/3 of our family well-being that we've committed to solving public problems. And so it starts with calling everyone to performance leadership in that 21 million government. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
With today's construction, every time we run one of these things, that is about 40 to 50% savings from code today. Let's talk about code for 1 second. Let me pick on the engineers. I already picked on the architects, right? You go into a room of engineers and you say, do you build energy efficient buildings today? Everybody says they do. And they say, what does that mean to you? Oh, we develop buildings to the latest codes developed by ASHRAE. First of all, they have the word code wrong because it's really standards, right? Well, we're meeting all of ASHRAE's energy efficient requirements that have been adopted by X number of 46 states, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, so you're telling me that you have just designed the worst possible legally allowable building. Oh. We've got to do better. We can do better. What happens is people now that you put concrete goals on things, people figure out how to meet the test, right? For the least cost possible, right? When you're in school and you're taking a class, you know, I'm an adjunct professor, I teach engineering students control theory, right? They're graduating seniors. What is their question? What is the, and they don't quite ask it this way, what is the minimum work path to get from here to graduation? Because this is a required class, right? We do that in building design, right? What's the path to get from here to there with the least number of dollars, with the least resistance? And I will figure it out. LEED has done that now. But it also has transformed the marketplace, right? At least people are talking about some of this stuff. I prefer real numbers, right? 30% less, because then at the end of the day we can measure it. I actually don't like the 30% is then you have to compare it against something, and I don't always know what something is. So we start putting real numbers on it. 25,000 B2s per square foot. Can we build a building that uses less than that and give people the motivation to get there and to make the decisions to get there? Design a zero energy building, even better. One of the things I like about the concept of zero energy buildings is, at the end of the day, you can go look at it and say, yay or nay, right? There's no other discussion about it, and you know that you've had some positive impact. Whatever we do, it's how do we influence the decision-making that goes on. Conceptually, zero energy building, no adverse effect on the environment. You know, I have a hard time defining what that means. Energy is one small piece of it. We got to start somewhere.